Hello, my darlings. How are you all out there in internet land? It's Madame Zezuba here again, with hopefully another insightful and penetrating reading. Today, we're going to be looking at for a reading for all you Aries out there, all my little rams and ewes. And of course, as usual, we'll be using the Cards Against Humanity spread. Because as you know, Madame Zezuba is the world's most accurate oracle, and her readings go to places no other readings do. So for all my little ewes and all my little rams, we're going to start shuffling now. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Spirit, spirit, spirit. Tell our little Arians out there what they need to know for the next week, starting on the 2nd of December 2024. Alright, fine. So now we're going to go to our first position. Here, and there, and there, and there, and here, and here, and here. Straight. Get that in order. And here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and there. Wonderful. Alright, okay. So now, let's start with our first position here. Now, the first position is the initiating spark. This is the core of the reading. This is what starts the inquiry off. Let's see what Spirit has to say. Heartwarming orphans. Now, heartwarming orphans would imply that you're maybe feeling a little lost and yet not completely alone. This would imply perhaps that it might not be you, it might be someone else, but there is a sense of loss, perhaps recent loss, and yet not a loss without its positive aspects as well. And so we're looking at a situation where people have had something that they once relied on, but they can no longer rely on this. Perhaps some support, perhaps even a literal loss of parents or parental figures. Anyway, that's what's initiating the reading. Okay, so let's look at who you are in relation to this current situation. And that is, turn this over, unfathomable stupidity. I see. So I think you've been very hard on yourself recently because you've made an incredibly stupid mistake and you're really regretting it. You know how stupid you have been. This is probably one of the great idiotic moments of your life. But that's all right, darling. We're all of us idiots at some point or another. We all of us have done things that we're ashamed of, that we wouldn't admit to our best friends or to our parents, even if they might be dead. Unfathomable stupidity also implies a rather, how do we put this, profound level of idiocy. This isn't just stupidity, normal day-to-day stupidity. This is unfathomable stupidity. This is the sort of stupidity that asks itself, where did that come from? How could I have been so dumb? How could I have been such an idiot? Don't worry, darling. You're here for guidance, and that's hopefully what I'll be able to give you. Now, in order to have achieved this current level of unfathomable stupidity, there would have been some negative influences in the past that would have been working against you. So let's just have a look at some of those negative influences and what they might have been. Becoming a blueberry. Obviously, since people don't literally become blueberries, they don't literally become something small and blue and nourishing, to which some people might have an allergy. But this would imply that at some point in the past, there was a tendency to maybe be smaller than you really are. Maybe to be something sweet, maybe a little too sweet, maybe a little bit too, how do I put this, accommodating. And perhaps in the throes of it becoming too accommodating, you did commit this act of unfathomable stupidity. Now, of course, there are not just negative influences in life, there are also positive influences in life. So let's have a look at some of the more positive things that might have happened in the past that has led to this being marginalized. Ah yes, things are becoming clearer now. So what has happened here is there has been a loss of guidance, a loss of perhaps something that you were previously able to rely on. Because of that loss, you perhaps became a smaller version of yourself, still succulent, still sweet, maybe a little too sweet. But strangely enough, because being marginalized is in the positive position, this would imply that you were meant to be moved out of the milieu in which you were currently, or at least at the time, but you refused the call. Somehow, instead of being positively marginalized, you took it as a negative thing, and that caused you to commit the act of unfathomable stupidity. There are, of course, always other forces in play here, and let's have a look at what the other situation is, the current other, some guy. A sort of nebulous other. I get the feeling that what happened here was that when you committed your act of unfathomable stupidity, it was to placate or to please or to mollify or to some way be nicer towards something that really wasn't there except in your own head. You were trying to please people that didn't need to be pleased. You were trying to accommodate people that didn't need to be accommodated. You were trying to placate those who needed no placation. So I think, darling, in this particular case, it probably is all on you. It is all your fault, shall we say. But it really isn't something to be worried about too much, because the only real problem is if you continue on this path of placating those who don't need to be placated, to please those who don't need to be pleased. If you continue on this current path, it will lead to famine. Yes, it will lead to psychic famine. You will be starved, darling. You will be starved of what you need, starved of what you want, starved of what could be possible for you. You do not need to continue to act in this particular way in order to please those who do not need to be pleased, because the nebulous other that needs to be pleased is entirely in your own head. Darling, I think the reading here at this level so far is being absolutely clear on who you are. You're being unfathomably stupid in order to please those who do not need to be pleased. You have become a smaller version of yourself, and as a result, you have entered into a state of famine, a state of not being nourished by yourself or what you need. Now, of course, if you do continue on the current path, and you are willing to live with being a lesser version of yourself starved to death, there are going to be negative consequences. You might actually getting really high. Now, what is implied in this reading then is that you might feel good at some level, but it will be only a superficial feeling of goodness. You will feel that you have done what you needed to do, even though you are a lesser version of yourself. But the reading here is indicating that you will feel really well, but because it's in a negative position, it means that that wellness will only be superficial, it will not be very lasting, and it will probably create either further unfathomable stupidity. Because think about the card, darling, getting really high. The first thing you think about is dope. And what's another word for the unfathomably stupid but dopes? So you will feel better, but you will still be acting with unfathomable stupidity. Of course, there may be some positive outcomes from that, and that would but it will result in explosions. And I'm thinking that these are the sort of earth-shattering explosions. These are the sort of explosions that happen when you continue with a particular path of behavior that might make you feel good, but that is really starving you, but there will be major personal repercussions that will be explosive to you, but it is in a positive position, so no matter how explosive the situation might be, it will actually ultimately be for your own good should you consider continuing on this path. Now, there is always an opportunity to change the self, to change the unfathomably stupid self that will lead itself to fathom and superficially feeling good. The Spirit is going to be telling you with the revelation of this card the sort of person that you need to become to get a better outcome. Nickelback. Very interesting. Now, for those of you who don't know Nickelback, they are a rock band, and a rock band that have, shall we say, a rather ambiguous relationship with their public. A lot of people are not particularly crazy about them. I think what the Spirit is saying here is that you need to be louder and brasher and not be concerned too much about not being liked. I think this is very important. I think Spirit is being very clear now in saying that you are probably becoming a blueberry with something that you felt that you needed to become in order to be more likable. But Spirit is telling you that you need to be louder, a louder version of yourself, a more assertive version of yourself, and one that doesn't really give much of a care about what other people might think. This, of course, this changed self will result in a changed other. And the cards reveal that that changed other would be, let's have a look, this month's mass shooting. So it doesn't look as if this is going to create a peaceful situation, but Spirit is telling you that perhaps peace is not an option at this moment, because no matter what you do, there are going to be explosions or a mass shooting. But we ask ourselves, when there is a mass shooting, this is coming, of course, from other people, because this is in the changed other. And it doesn't really matter what you do, there are going to be repercussions. So you have to ask yourself, since the repercussions are going to be explosive or resulting in a shooting anyway, well, what option do you have? You might as well be true to yourself. You might as well become a louder version of yourself. You might as well be somebody who risks being unloved or unliked and not really care very much. Now, there are of course going to be forces at play here that will in some way support the position of the changed self. Support the position, the movement from being the unfathomably stupid to somebody who perhaps still has a little bit of stupidity in them, but will be a louder, more obnoxious, but more assertive version of itself, of yourself. And that supporting energy will take two forms. This is one form, women's undies. I see. Protecting your delicate parts. I think this is what the reading is. Through a feminine energy. Possibly a decorative, protective energy. There will be elements in your environment which will support maintaining a sort of not only protection but maybe a decorative modesty in the situation. I think this is a very clear message that you will be protected, especially in, shall we say, your more vulnerable nether regions, not only physically but also psychically, energetically, spiritually. The other forces that will work in your favour while you transition from being the blueberry to becoming the more assertive version of yourself will be Robocop. Yes. Now, Robocop, authority, a lack of emotion, maybe more detached emotions, maybe I'm thinking perhaps that what's happening here is a new augmented version of yourself, but also coming from other forces as well. Perhaps an ally. Yes, an ally that is allied with the machinery of purpose. Yes, that's what I'm getting from this reading, darlings. My little ewes and my little rams. Pay attention, Arians. This is very important. You will be getting support. It will be both protective and assertive. Assuming that you take on this new energy, this new version of yourself, this louder, brasher version of yourself, the ultimate result will be exactly what you'd expect. Well, I don't think it could be clearer than that, darling. Exactly what you'd expect. Exactly what you'd expect. So, what is exactly what you'd expect? You will probably expect shooting, explosions, etc. There will be blowback from becoming the more assertive version of yourself, the one that speaks its truth. But you will be protected in this, and you will have allies. Now, ultimately then, I think that Spirit is calling on you in this reading to decide exactly what you will expect. What is it that you will expect, darlings? What do you want to expect? I think Spirit is calling upon you to take responsibility for your vision of the future, knowing that when you become the more assertive, louder version of yourself that doesn't care about being liked or loved, you will be protected and you will have allies. But the situation will nevertheless, no matter what you do, result in some sort of explosion, some sort of disruption, but it will be all for the good. Ultimately, darling, that's what Spirit has to tell for all you Arians here. So if your sun, moon, or is in Aries, or if you have an Aries rising, also tell anyone who is an Aries in your life that they might need to have a look at their situation, and perhaps they need to listen to what Madame Zezuba has to say. And that's really what Spirit has for you, darlings. So, best of luck, darlings, and let me know in the comments below how things have turned out for you. Bye bye, darlings. Bye bye.